Okay. The first thing you need to know about social networks is if you post something, nobody will see it. That's the speaking into the void problem. If you post something on Twitter, nobody will see it. If you post something on Reddit, nobody will ever read it. Nobody will ever comment on it. If you post something on your Facebook, on your personal Facebook page, maybe some people will read it, but those will most likely be your friends and family and tell you how awesome you are, and that will be it. This is not the way. This is the way we think it's supposed to work, but it doesn't work. And let me tell you, it doesn't work even for people who have a lot of followers anymore. Because all the social networks realize that people follow people not because they're interested in what they have to say, but because of some form of commitment or initial interest. And TikTok showed all the social networks that if you show people what they're actually interested in and not what they have subscribed to, they stick around longer and they see more ads. So everybody is switching to that model. Twitter has switched to that model. YouTube has switched to that model. Apparently, Instagram is on the way. And I've seen initial indications that Reddit is going in that direction as well. I'm getting notifications from subreddits I'm not subscribed to. This is a new thing. They are looking at what I'm interested in and bringing in content that seems similar to what I'm interested in from other subreddits. So everyone's doing it. So subscriptions don't matter as much as they did, and therefore, even if you have subscribers, if you post something, nobody will see it. It's going to be all crickets all day. That's the first problem. So these are the problems. If you post something that looks like self-promotion, you'll get banned. Now, everything we do is self-promotion in one form or another. So if you do post something and it's like, I am exploring the problem of this and this and this, people have been doing this forever. And Reddit subreddits will ban you. Facebook groups will ban you. Even Facebook's own algorithm for identifying spam will ban you, even if the moderators of the group won't ban you. Discord channels will ban you. It is not like, and for a good reason. As consumers of these things, we don't like to be bombarded with marketing messages or anything that is kind of thinly veiled marketing, a marketing message. So in order for us to be effective on social networks, we need to work around this and we need to work around this. And the method has 3 steps in it. I think maybe 4. Step 1, post replies on other people's posts. I'm blanking out on good topics to choose for an example. Something niche. House cleaners. Right, let's say there's a subreddit that has discussions between people whose job is to clean houses, and they're like starting businesses around that, and they're doing that, and they're complaining about awful customers and horribly messy kids rooms and whatever. That's the discussion there. Probably not a protected forum because it's not like you don't need to be a certified house cleaner in order to get in, so anybody can get in. You need to post replies to other people's posts. If it's a topic you know about, then you can add information or post some insights. If it's a topic you don't know anything about, you can ask questions, clarifications. Okay, give me some feedback, guys. Are you with me? Are you not with me? Do you understand what this means? Max, Axel, I know you guys are actually, I don't know if you guys have done this before on.
I've tried to I've like looked at this a little bit when a while ago I was looking at like forums like Reddit subreddits where people, where therapists talked about various problems they had, or like, how do I do this thing using simple practice, or what's the workaround for X, Y, and Z, or something like that. So I didn't really interact with them a ton, but there was kind of the like, go find where people are talking about my problem to learn about it and then start figuring out if there is a way to contribute. But it was kind of niche. So in my case, it was like I couldn't say, well, here's my cool workaround for using simple practice as a therapist, but I could try to find somebody else's maybe and then copy it, but I hadn't gone down that path.
So one thing you could do in this, and that's why I added become an expert in a tool or software, is because we're software people. The fact that a therapist can't figure out a tool despite them having used it for a year does not mean you can't figure it out in 5 minutes because you're a software person. Just by reading the documentation and kind of assuming things from just using the app. So if there's I didn't know there was a tool called Simple Practice, but now I do. And if there's a forum of therapists who are talking about these things and asking questions about Simple Practice, then maybe it's a worthwhile investment of time and money to first buy a license for Simple Practice, second, explore the app, and third, every time there's a question about Simple Practice, go dive into the tool, dive into the docs, figure out how to do it, figure out some kind of workaround, and suggest it when a person is asking a question. It requires an investment of time. But the thing that happens when you do this kind of thing, especially in a kind of small to medium sized forum, is that your name becomes associated with a certain type of answers. So this is something David's done in the past, and it happens quickly. Like you go and you dig and you give a good answer for people's questions, and they start to recognize you as an expert in whatever thing you like. Because obviously we go into a forum, we start answering questions, we typically choose questions we have something to contribute to. And then after a while, like, well, this guy is answering every Simple Practice question and is always going and researching and bringing something extra that nobody else can understand because he's a software developer. He's not actually a therapist. But oh my God, this is so useful to have him here. And this perception happens fairly quickly. Like it just needs to be frequent enough for people to notice that it's the same person. Like if you write a couple messages a day like that for a week or 10 days, then like, okay, this guy is a fixture of this community. And nobody remembers you joined only 10 days ago because people's memory is like 24, 48 hours max for a social network. So nobody notices that you just joined. It's like, oh, this is you've always been here. So these replies will eventually get some traction. Traction in the sense of wait until traction. So this means likes, replies, upvotes, whatever it is the platform supports. Your replies will get traction. Some other people beyond the person who's asked the question or who commented would engage with whatever you wrote because it matches. It won't first happen the first time you post a comment. It probably won't happen the first 5 or 7 times you post a comment. But as you post comments, you start to understand what are people expecting and what is helpful. This tends to not take very long. So compared to posting into the wild, into the ether, into the void and not hearing any replies, this takes much less time. Because when you reply to a person, just because of basic psychological reciprocity, that person typically feels the need to reply back to you, or at the very least like or upvote your reply. That's just basic human behavior. Some people don't, but in most cases they do. On Reddit, it's really important. It's not just Reddit, but on Reddit, it's really because on Reddit, you can sort the posts by new, by rising, by hot, and by top. Ideally, you want to comment on the newest posts. This is for 2 reasons. The first reason is if you're one of the first people to reply, then you're very likely to get engagement on your comment. The second reason, if you reply within 10, 15, 20 minutes of them posting something, they're likely still online, which increases the chances that they will reply back to you. So again, you have these little bits of engagement. Depending on the platform, that engagement can either be important from a psychological point of view, because people just feel you're a nice guy that is nice to have an interaction with, or it can have an actual algorithmic result. So on Twitter, for example, if a person replies to you, then they will now start to see your tweets. It's not yet fully true on Reddit, but it is like this is the way to make it work on Twitter, because if you reply to someone and they reply to you, then now you both are seeing each other's tweets, and you're now, even though you don't follow each other, the algorithm will make sure you're in constant communication until it falls out of, like, if you don't for 24 to 48 hours, if you don't engage with each other's tweets, then you will stop seeing their tweets. But it's a good start. So you do this, and you do this until something works. Then you repost the comment as a top level post. Why is this important? A reply in most platforms is hidden in the thread. If it's a Facebook group, it's hidden in the thread of replies under a certain message. If it's Reddit, it's hidden even deeper. In Twitter, its replies, they're not as prominently shown as top level tweets. So, but if you repost your comment as a top level post, so as a repost a reply tweet as a top level tweet or whatever, although they call them posts these days, so it works now across all networks. So the first thing this works is because more people may have a chance to see that, but it works for a different reason. When your successful comment, when your comment succeeds, that means that a portion of the population of the readers on the platform have found it valuable. That means you've hit something. You understood the something about the zeitgeist of what's going on in that group about this particular topic. It's an indication of you hitting something, of you landing on a topic people are interested in. Something is working. So this thing has about 10 times better chance of succeeding as this thing. It's validated. You've hit something there. I've actually had, I think, close to 100% success in getting traction with this, and close to 0 with this. Like writing a post, going into a new subreddit and writing a post because I think I have something interesting to say about a topic, never gets any traction. Replying, looking for people who are, and waiting until one of my replies gets some engagement, and then reposting it works almost every time. So one other thing I want to add, that there is a tension here. Here we go. There is a bit of tension here. So I said that you want to reply to new posts that you don't know whether they will perform well or not. But this happens only when the original post performs well. Let me just restate that. When somebody posts a problem with simple practice, they're trying to do something and it doesn't work, and you're the first person to reply to that post, and you say, oh, if you click here and if you look here and if you do this, then that will likely work, and here's the link in the docs that explains how to do that. You've helped that person, but because you've replied early, you don't know the traction that original post is going to get. So maybe after 12 hours there's 100 upvotes and many replies on that, and therefore a lot of traction on your own comment. And maybe after 12 hours, no one's read it, no one's interested, nothing's happening, and therefore your comment hasn't gotten visibility as well. So there's a random thing here, a bit of a random thing here. One way to fix this, and this again is a Reddit only thing. Reddit has, you can sort posts by rising. So rising means it's gotten a few upvotes within the first, I think, 10 or 15 minutes of appearing. This kind of it's an indication of this post, of the likelihood of this post becoming popular. So if you reply to posts that are rising, you have a slightly bigger chance of hitting it, because the original post will rise and your comment will rise with that original post.
But it's probably tougher to beat early then, because
you are not as early. Therefore, you would not want to do it with your first comments. So when you're new to a forum or new to a subreddit, go with new. Just practice until you kind of start saying useful things, and people are, oh, this is awesome. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, this is great. Then you switch over to Rising because you know your comments are of a high enough quality. So if there are 4 comments, there's a good chance that your comment is 5th, but it's better than the other 4, just because you've been practicing. It's the same thing that, Max, we talked about emailing. Like when you write a lot of these cold emails, you get better. You write a lot of these comments, you get better. You get more succinct, more precise, more aligned with the way people tend to communicate in that form. Okay. So you repost a successful comment as a top level post, you add some detail to it, right? You don't just copy paste it, you expand it a little bit, add a little bit of meat, and then you post something original. So after you've done a bunch of these, again, your intuitive sense of what is interesting in a group will increase actually fairly exponentially. And then you post something original. And here you can talk about your idea, problem, question. Because you now understand what people are talking about, how they're talking about. You know more about the problems they're facing. And now you can connect that to the thing that you're exploring, and you can post something original, the top level post, and start getting a little more interaction from people about your problem or idea or question, or maybe even solution, depending on what stage you're in. So if you go through these 4 stages, by the time you get to 4, you should have nice engagement on this in the form of replies. When I did this a couple of times, I went from 0, a couple of upvotes, 5 to 10 upvotes, to something like 30, to at one point on a Reddit sub there was like 400 upvotes, because something in me clicked, something in my head clicked about what these people are interested in and what they care about, and I basically reflected their overall experience. So this was a sub called Get Disciplined, and people were trying to force themselves into the habit of doing things they didn't want to do and failing miserably. And I noticed that they respond really well to kindness and softness and forgiveness for not being able to stick to their habits. And nobody else was doing it. Like everybody was trying either to force themselves or other people into this ridiculous consistency that only few people can actually do. So when I posted that, kind of like the just a very soft thing, it's okay, it's fine. It's like you skipped a day, you skipped a week, you skipped a month, it doesn't matter. Forgiving yourself is the most important way to get back on it. And I saw how people were resonating with it. I wrote a whole post about how to do this practically. What does forgiving yourself actually means? And people were all over it. And it's not because there was something particularly novel or wise in what I said. It was because in the context of how people typically think about these things, it really worked. And it just clicked after I posted and had a few conversations. I noticed that this was a missing thing. And it does tend to happen. Not like with 100% predictability, but it does tend to happen. So these are the problems. This is the approach. I've seen this happen on Reddit. I've seen this happen on Twitter. I've seen this happen on Facebook groups. I've seen this happen on technical topics, on psychological topics, and open relationships forum that my wife was part of for a while. It seems to be a universal principle of how to engage effectively on social networks, mostly that have this forum or group dynamic, but it works on Twitter as well. It works better when there's a forum or group dynamic because people start to recognize your name or your whatever and associate it with quality or a certain type of answers. And I've seen this, on Discord too. Like basically most forms of social networking you can think of, this works well. No doubt this would work on WhatsApp groups, Telegram channels, anything like that. The timeline for this thing, As far as I can tell, it takes 2 to 3 weeks. You need to be there daily for those 2 or 3 weeks. They kind of need to, you need to engage quite a bit. But because the intuitive sense of what people are talking about and what's going on in the group happens when you do enough of that. And also the recognition of your name requires a certain density. Like your name needs to appear frequently enough for this to have an effect. And also it needs to be frequent enough for the algorithm to catch on that you're typically saying useful things. Not all algorithms are the same, but they are kind of they're all looking for similar signals that whatever you're saying is useful for this group of people. So this is also a useful thing.
This 2-3 weeks is how big should the group be? I mean, it's small if it's 1 or 2 posts per day.
It depends, but let me give you my own example, my own exploration. I'm now doing this in the entrepreneur subreddit on Reddit. There are, I think, 1.5 million subscribers to that. 1,500 people online at any given moment. It's a big group. Lots of things happening there. However, there are about 10 new posts a day, maybe 15. I can respond. I have something to contribute to 3 or 4. That's it. And standing out from 10 to 15 top level posts a day is not that hard. I just need to get the gist of what people want to talk there about there. And I still haven't, like, I don't have an intuitive sense of what would work, but I will. And even now I have a couple of hundred, maybe 300 karma points on that sub, just from the comments. And from a few, like I did this, and I did a little bit of this, and I did a couple of these. So I had a couple of top level posts that resulted from comments that already succeeded. Yes, Max.
Just gonna ask, do you do this in your like main account? Do you create different accounts for different projects? I mean, I guess like maybe entrepreneurship runs a thread through like a lot of things that you do. So maybe it's not something you would split off, but like a niche, like, yeah, I've got comments and things on my main account from like the last several years of using Reddit. Just, there's nothing like crazy there, but is it weird to should you start another account just for the purpose of being like, this is my account for this niche?
I don't think so, unless it's a not safe for work things are intermixed there. Like I wouldn't mix porn with work, but
probably not.
Yeah, but for most other things, let's say that you do this for a week and you write, I don't know, 20, 30 pieces of content, comments and posts. Now your history looks like you've always done this, unless people scroll really deeply down. So it actually doesn't take a lot of time to like I have 13,000 karma on Reddit, and most of that was from my bout with Get Disciplined, because I did a lot of work there for 6 months. I just I went nuts. I ran soft discipline courses there, which one of my biggest successes on social media was there. It was like crazy traction, $0, but crazy traction. Anyway, completely unrelated to what I'm doing right now. Right, but it doesn't matter, because as I engage, my timeline, my kind of history gets filled with things. So if you're focused on a particular niche or a particular subreddit for a period, and you put out enough content, and again, a period is like 2-3 weeks, and you put out enough content on that topic, your history starts to look like this is what you do, this is what you're interested in, and it fits. Like a very rare, nitpicky, annoying person would go down into your history and say, oh, looks like this is the 4th niche you're trying out for your little business. But it's rare. Like some people do that, but and these comments typically don't get traction because nobody gives a fuck. So it's not really a big deal. One final thing I want to add here is the follow-up. Send direct messages. So this is the whole thing here the goal is lead generation. You want, through this interaction on social media, you are figuring out who are the kind of people you may want to create a one-on-one connection with, ask them some questions, maybe sell something to them, maybe get them on a call. But you send direct messages to people you've exchanged with, right? So it's not cold, it's very warm. Ideally, you do that in a short time frame. So like I said before, you reply to a new message within 15, 20, 30 minutes. They reply back to you again within a short period of time because they're likely still online. Then you go into their profile, you send them a private message until it either peters out and you don't have anything more to say to each other, or you get it to the next stage where you schedule a call. Now, depending on the social network you're in, that may be easier or harder. People on Twitter are always very happy to get on calls. Like the people in our, the indie hackers are always very happy to get on calls, happy to record a podcast, happy to do anything. People on Reddit, because of its more anonymous nature, are much more weary about that kind of thing. So they need to get to know you a little more before getting on a call. I've had people who I've had a conversation over like an hour, 90 minutes, lots of value exchange, like, well, we're talking a lot here, let's get on a call. And they would I don't talk to people. So depending on the social network, it can be easier or harder, but we don't need to get them on a call. We can also just have a conversation in the chat and ask them the questions we want to chat, and do the same kind of 5-stage exploration that we do anywhere else. Just keep in mind that dynamic. But unless you do a follow-up, nothing happens. All of this is just a precursor for that. Also, you can't follow up with somebody who just upvoted or what you wrote, even if you can see that. So, for example, on Reddit, if someone upvotes your post, you don't know who that is. But on Twitter, if someone liked your post, you can see that. If you DM them, that is likely not going to work, though, because it's too low of an effort from them to feel the necessary reciprocity to get into a conversation with you. Same thing seems to be true for Facebook. But if they write a reply, then they have gone kind of above and beyond here, and you can engage them in a conversation. Typically that works. All right, that's 30 minutes of theory of how to do social networks well, and I think this covers everything.